How you doing, Evan? Thank you so much for joining the podcast. We've got to connect over some time. Really enjoy learning about your story. But for the audience, tell us about yourself, how you got to where you are today.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for having me, Amobi. My name's Evan Kravetz, from Miami, Florida, now living in Houston, Texas. Was a fifth-round pick from the Cincinnati Reds in 2019. So currently starting my career as a minor league baseball player until COVID shut our minor league season down. So in the meantime, I'm working in Houston as an analyst at Toro Capital, which I've enjoyed, and it's something that I've been able to learn a lot through, and something I look forward to doing into the future.
No, that's amazing. And talk about timing. You're a rookie and you're coming into this situation. But outside of that, it seems like you've had the foresight to look at other opportunities. You're an analysis for Toro Capital. So talk about that, that mindset of, looking at other options even while you start your career.
Right. Well, I was kind of a late bloomer, as they would say, as far as the athletic, baseball developmental side goes. So I remember when I was a senior in school, sitting down before baseball season, speaking to people about.
And where you go to school?
I went to Rice University in Houston.
Oh, so you were already, you're a smart kid.
Well, a product of being in a good environment, that's for sure. But I remember, sitting down with people, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, having lunches with people, alumni that kind of been in a mix of different industries. And I think I decided around the fall that finance was what I wanted to go into. So started meeting some people, making some connections, and then baseball ended up going really well. Got the opportunity with the Reds, obviously took it and ran, and, don't want to look back, would certainly love nothing more than a 20-year Major League Baseball career. What you'd love to plan for that. Ideally, you'd love to focus 100% of your time on that. But the reality is that during the off season, you have more time than just baseball workouts, and you have bills to pay, and you have, a resume to build. So, I've always looked at baseball as not necessarily a means to an end, but kind of a tool to get me where I want to be. And if it works out professionally, that would be fantastic. But I really wanted to make sure that with the time I had outside of baseball season, that I was going to be prepared for whatever comes next.
No, that's amazing. And what was that process like of finding out what you're passionate about? Because no one just falls into an analyst role in Toro Capital. It's like a large corporation, and you're doing amazing things for them.
Yeah, it was a learning experience. I knew I wanted to get into finance. Investment banking was always, that's the sexy thing, right? That's the popular thing, So yeah, as soon as I got that opportunity, I jumped at it. And for me, it's just been a learning experience. I've gotten to see certain sides of the business, and it's helped me determine, what are some things that I could see myself doing, what are some things that I like doing, and what are some things that I don't. And, I think to figure out what you want to do, professionally after sports, the only way to do it is to actually throw yourself in there and throw yourself on the proverbial deep end, and, see what you can pick up, see what you like and see what you don't like. So I was very blessed to have a great mentor there, Jim Rao, who, has taken care of me and has taught me so much about the business. And, I still treat it as a learning experience. There's still so much more to pick up, and I'm looking forward to it.
No, that's what it's all about. And you mentioned having a good mentor. I suggest any athlete, or anyone for that matter, trying to find a mentor is really important. They show you the ropes. They show you things that you may not be looking at from a unique angle or unique vantage point. And if we talk about mentors and apply it to, the athletic circle, you're a young rookie. How have you been able to adjust? This is unique times, but some of the ways that you've been able to adjust, getting drafted within the Cincinnati Reds organization, and just talk about that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly interesting times. Time management is obviously such an important thing, and no matter what you do in life. So, as far as this situation goes, just kind of practicing time management skills and applying it to where I am now. We're in a situation where there is no minor league season to go to, but at the same time, we have to stay ready. The team is going to draft a whole bunch of new guys every single year, right? Baseball, just like any other sport, is a very competitive environment. So if you're not doing what you need to do to be successful, rest assured everyone else in the organization is.
That's true.
And it'll catch up with you. So you really need to manage your time well. So I've been able to prioritize my baseball workouts, make sure, I'm taking care of everything that I need to take care of, a specific amount of time for that. And then, around that time, do everything I need to do for Entoro, take my license exams, and make sure I'm not missing anything on both sides. But, just to be in the situation that we're in now is pretty unprecedented. So, it really took a lot of, time management, looking at the calendar every week, seeing, here are my, necessities, here are the priorities, and, here are things that I could deal without. And you tend to have to make sacrifices just like any athlete does, growing up and through college and through their professional years, I'm sure.
No, that's what it's all about. And what I got from that is that, you were proactive. But what's interesting, I mean, despite the situation that we all are in, you're a professional athlete, so people look at you differently. Can you talk about that mindset of going through, your minor league season being canceled, but still people seeing you as a professional athlete and maybe assuming that you're not going through the same struggles that they may be going through, both like career-wise and monetarily?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's such a tough situation for a lot of people right now. And, the minor league lifestyle isn't exactly the most glamorous lifestyle out there. And when that gets taken away, you kind of sit down for a minute, you think, what the heck am I going to do? So, just like everyone else, we have to find work. We have to, find ways to pay rent, find ways to, to quote unquote, put food on the table. Although, I'm very lucky, I'm very blessed to be in the situation I'm in. And I understand some people, have some limitations, right?
Yeah.
Environmentally, professionally or whatnot. But, like being a baseball player and being a minor league baseball player, you also get kind of a platform that is a pretty cool thing. It's something that other people may recognize and may say, oh, you're a baseball player, that's pretty cool. And it can actually open some doors in some scenarios where you let it, so finding work in the off season and speaking to people and people finding out that, not only are you a baseball player, but here are some other things that you want to accomplish, that really speaks a lot about, a person if they aren't just a one-trick pony, right? Like they have a lot more that they want to do. So I think just being able to use that platform and that status and say, yes, I'm a minor league baseball player, and yes, that's my career, path is to ultimately be a big league player. But, at the same time, these are the things I want to do. I think a lot of people respect that. And, hopefully I can accomplish well on both ends of the spectrum.
No, that's what it's all about. I think it's really important that you pointed out that, not everyone sees the limelight of, they just see you get drafted. And what I like about, players in these niche sports or like in the developmental phases of their career is that they understand that they have to grind, they have to hustle. So for you, someone like myself, someone like in these niche leagues that haven't made it to the bigger leagues, like that hustle is innate in them, and it leads to opportunities off the field or even within the field because they just have like that mentality, like I'm going to push through no matter what.
Right. Exactly. All athletes are competitors, right? And you take that competitor mindset into whatever field you get into, right?
Yeah, that's true. But we had Matt Pear on the podcast a couple months back, and he was a former minor league baseball player, actually professional baseball player, but would jump back and forth. And he talked about some of the money principles that he applied as a minor league baseball player. Can you talk about some of the money principles that you've applied, although you're in a unique situation because you just came into the league? So like, talk about some of the things that you've had to use and apply to your own financial playbook.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because last season I was drafted in 2019 and I was shut down pretty shortly after getting drafted with some shoulder fatigue. So I was sent to the spring training complex in Arizona. So I didn't really get the tough, 10-hour bus ride. Here's your PB&J sandwich, minor league ride. I was in Arizona, big complex, big facility. We were getting good meals and all that. So, I don't really have that years of minor league experience yet. But, I do think like from like a financial perspective, like right now, like it's important to realize that every penny counts because, right now I have these 5 or 6 months where I'm going to be in Houston and able to work. But come next year, come next spring, I'm back in spring training. I'm back on the bus, on the bus trips, back playing baseball for those 8 months. And, I know that 6 or 7 months from now, I'm certainly going to be thinking either, gosh, I wish I saved some extra money for these few months, or gosh, thank God I did. Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think ahead. I'm certainly trying to avoid, buying anything that isn't needed. The way I think about it is I'm living in an apartment now through February. And if something may look like a great addition now, but come February when I move out, am I going to think, thank God I got that? Or, what difference did it make? Right.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So, you're doing your job right now on the side with Entoro Capital. Talk about, it's in finance and it's in investment banking. So what are some money principles that you've learned in that space and applied it to your personal career now, even despite all the changes that are going on?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've taken a lot of the licensing exams through Entoro, a lot of the investment banking licensing exams, which has taught me a ton about the industry, and just getting a chance to learn about wealth management and asset management, I think has been phenomenal. Because now I have a better idea of, what actually happens to your money when you invest it. What are the keys to investing? What are things you want to invest in? If you have an investment advisor and he calls you and says, hey, this is what we're doing, I think it's a really helpful thing to know, okay, why is he doing that? I mean, you hear stories all the time about predatory, investment managers for athletes, where athletes really get the raw end of the stick there. And I really wanted to make sure that I'm fluent in that process and know kind of, the ins and outs of it. So just knowing some wealth management aspects, very common investing knowledge, I think is something that is going to help me out in the future largely.
No, that's big time. And you broke it down in a really unique way that I want to touch on. You said you want to be fluent in wealth management. And if you liken it to learning a new language, the most important thing is when you're learning a new language, you want to learn the vowels, you want to learn the basics, you want to learn enough to get you by. So when you may need something like food or water, or need to get your point across, you have those basic understanding of the language. And when it comes to the language of finance, it's the same thing. So talk about some of the basics that you talked about that you've learned so far, and how another athlete that may look to you for advice can use it into their own practice.
Right. Well, I mean, you think of investments and investment banking and all that knowledge that you can get in that sphere, but the most basic thing that you could start off doing is just creating your budget, right? Creating your monthly budget, starting from the ground floor. I remember just taking out a piece of paper one day and I kept it in my car and I said, I'm going to write down everything I spend money on. Every time I use my credit card, I'm going to go in my car, I'm going to write it down.
Respect.
And that's just the ground floor. And that's probably the best place to start, right? What am I spending money on? Was this necessary? Okay, it was gas. It was necessary. Okay, was it necessary? Yeah, it was food. It was pretty necessary. Okay, I went to HEB and I bought probably 4 groceries that ended up going bad. Okay, that wasn't necessary,
Yeah.
So just those small things, I think, can help you kind of visualize, where exactly your money is going. I certainly remember the first time I did it, looking at that sheet at the end of the month and saying, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on coffee.
So now you got a Keurig or something, or what?
Exactly. Now I have my coffee machine. Yep.
That's amazing. That's so funny. And I like how you mapped out for the future. Cause you said, all right, my lease is going to be up in February. So this is how I'm going to plan according to how long I'm going to live there. And I think that mindset of long-term strategy is really important. So can you elaborate on how you think long-term and how you suggest others to think long-term as well?
Yeah, well, it's certainly certainly a work in progress. But, I think long-term, the last thing I want to do is get stuck in a position where I don't have the funds, when I certainly need them, or if someone, if a loved one needs funds or anything like that I'm not able to help them out. I'm fortunate to have a great support system behind me. I've always been taught from a young age. And so, you always want to plan for the next step just in case, right?
Yeah.
So the money I signed for is completely put away, and that'll pay for graduate school at some point.
So
hopefully I won't have to, right. So hopefully I won't have to, take out a lot of loans or anything like that. And,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be in a situation where that, that may be the case. But, I really just want to plan for having the best chance of being a professional baseball player that I can be. I know that there's going to be workouts to pay for in the next few years. I know there's going to be rent to pay for and food to pay for, and those are priorities. And I want to make sure that I don't have to give up, an inch of a potential baseball career because, I didn't do what I was supposed to be doing in the time that I could have, right? I certainly don't want to miss out on some elite baseball performance, workouts or some pitching instruction or just the opportunities to get better where, you're in a sport where, everyone else, is doing everything they can to maximize their talent. So I certainly want to plan and make sure that I'm never forced to, give up the best path to becoming a big leaguer.
No, that's great that you pointed that out because I feel like, athletes, the biggest thing that they can do for themselves is to create leverage. So you being smarter with your finances, making sure planning ahead, it gives you the luxury of going to these elite training camps, like being able to, bet on yourself because, you're not stressed out about money in the sense of maybe your competitor or another player because you've done the groundwork and then now you can pursue your career. As athletes, we all know, first things come first, keep the main thing. And for you, that's baseball. You can do that without having, the voice in the back of your head is like, okay, how am I going to make payments for next month if I'm on the 1-year contract or things like that. So I'm really glad that you pointed out the concept of leverage and the concept of, we all face financial problems at some level. You could be LeBron James, you can be Amobi Okugo, you can be Evan Kravetz. We're all going to face financial problems, but how can we lessen that load just by being proactive? So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. And, like I said, it's a work in progress. I certainly don't pretend to have the best spending habits on the planet. And I'm certainly lucky and product of my environment. But the cool thing is that there's so much information online now on where to start, like if you don't know where to start a budget, go on YouTube, how to start a budget, right? Like if you want tips on how much to save, go to a frugal athlete, go see.
Thank you. We did not pay him for that. I'm just letting you guys know.
No, that was completely.
But for real, how did you
not planned.
You mentioned getting your start. So do you have like a book that kind of made it all click for you? You mentioned growing up in a strong environment that kind of led you to always be a learner, always strive to learn more. What was that aha moment when it came to all right, I'm going to take a proactive approach about my career, about my financial playbook, all that?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if there was necessarily an aha moment. But, I certainly do remember you sign your contract and it's great and it's the most exciting moment in the world. And, you start playing and it's so much fun and money is like not even a thought in your head. This is a dream come true, right? And then you get your first minor league paycheck and, whatever, you get your second one, whatever, you get your third one. And then you start thinking, the season's going to end soon and I'm not going to be getting any income for the next 7 months. You don't get paid in the off season, right? So I think at that point you start to realize, okay, I'm going to have to do something here, right? And as far as always learning, I mean, I'm a little bit of a reader. Wasn't a reader in college at all, but trying to read a little bit more and kind of learn a little bit more where I can.
Okay, so what's the last book you read?
So right now I'm reading a book called Atomic Habits that I finished up, which I like a lot. And then I actually have 2 that just came in that are kind of historical books that are pretty interesting to me. Okay. So, I think, when you're in the minor leagues and going on your bus trips and whatnot, I mean, it's a great opportunity to just open something and learn something, right? I mean, I certainly don't want to look back and say, okay, all my downtime was completely wasted. I mean, there's certainly benefits to hanging out with the guys on your team and building that camaraderie and your relationships and connections that'll last hopefully for a lifetime. But I certainly want to make sure I'm not being, unproductive in times that I can maybe pick up something.
No, you're exactly right. That's important. Do you have a financial book or anything like that you read recently that you'd recommend?
I'm not sure that I've read a financial book recently. I think Atomic Habits actually may make a lot of sense as far as the budgeting aspect goes and setting personal budgeting goals. Mm-hmm. How to make planning a budget and like succeeding and excelling and, you know, hitting your budget ascertainable, you know, how to make that somewhat, you know, it seems insurmountable, the amount like you want to save each month, how to make that doable, the little decisions that can add up to kind of help you out in the long term. So I think Atomic Habits is actually a very solid book for
Perfect.
plenty of fields.
We definitely gonna have that in the show notes. No, thank you so much. I have another question. Obviously, you know, you've taken on a pretty big role with Intoro Capital. This new thing, which is how we got connected, you know, the impact side. Can you talk about that? And because I know you have a really big passion about what you're doing with that initiative.
Absolutely, absolutely. So back in February, before COVID, you know, shut a lot of things down, and Toro was part of an event for athletes getting involved in impact investing. And basically it turned into this idea that there's plenty of athletes that are either running their own foundations, a part of foundations, you know, they have their family offices, or they have, you know, these ventures and businesses that they're creating in their post-playing careers. And these athletes would benefit from, you know, exposure to these foundations, to these ventures, exposure to other athletes that are doing similar things. You know, I'm sure younger athletes would love to learn from people who, you know, built empires. I mean, look at a guy like Dwayne Johnson, who just bought the XFL, right? I mean, these are guys that turned athletic careers into empires, right?
That's true.
So, you know, we found this opportunity where a lot of athletes would like to learn these, you know, business tricks, investing tricks. So we created a database of athletes with their foundations and ventures. And what we're trying to do with this database is help market, you know, the foundations of an athlete, the venture of an athlete, you know, and also connect the family offices of the athletes with impact investing opportunities that come across. So whether it's a, you know, opportunity for social justice or an opportunity for impact for a cause that, say, an athlete just happens to care about, whether it's, you know, an illness or, you know, another cause, you know, we want to make sure that these athletes can get connected to any impact opportunities that they can. And it helps the athlete, it helps the athlete build their brand, but it also helps, you know, socially, it helps everyone, right? I mean, athletes have a huge platform and are able to, you know, do a lot of great things. So we're just trying to help them, you know, get their message across and accomplish what they want to accomplish off the field. And we also want to make it, you know, an athlete helping athlete setting. It's almost a big team, right? I mean, we want guys from different playing fields and different sports to help each other and to you know, kind of help make the biggest impact that they can collectively.
No, that's what it's all about. And you see more and more of it today, you know, athletes really taking an active role in impact investing. And it's not just, you put in dollars behind a cause and then it's like seeing what takes it from there. Like there's a lot of different intricate things and models and insights that are to be had and to learn from other athletes doing it. And then, you know, take the, you know, mentorship approach and, you know, learn from people that have built their empires. It's amazing what you guys are doing. You mentioned The Rock. I know another one that's recently been popular is Derek Morgan, who created a large impact fund to invest in, you know, different sustainable startups and initiatives. So the more you learn, and there's business to be made too. There's business to be had in impact investing if you want to, you know, help and also make money at the same time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a growing field, it seems, and a lot of people are really excited about it. So, you know, we're just going to make sure that we put, you know, everything we can in front of these athletes and let them, you know, tell us what they're passionate about, you know, and what they want to see accomplished. And, you know, essentially it's going to be an athlete-led project. So we're hoping that we can get this off the ground. And once COVID ends, we can, you know, get some events going and some panels and some conferences and turn this into a long-term operation.
No, that's what it's all about. So, obviously, you're still like a young veteran. I want to say young veteran because you're wise beyond your years in the game. What advice would you have for any athlete coming into the league, whether it's Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, soccer, whatever? What advice would you have for them?
Well, I mean, as just a minor league baseball player, you know, I would say as for an athlete going into the minor leagues, I'd say to keep all the doors open that you can. I mean, you never know when one connection you make is going to help you, you know, pick up a job in the offseason, you know, pick up a job when you're done with sports. You know, that person might know someone who has a project that you're extremely interested in. So, the focus is obviously to be a professional, keep the main thing, like you said, but I'd certainly want, make sure that you keep all the doors open. You certainly, are personable and sociable with the people that you come across, because who knows, in the future, whether it's 1, 5, 10, 20 years from now, that person, may be very important in the line of work that you're doing, or, may have something that you want to work with, and something like that. So I'd certainly recommend just keeping doors open. I mean, like you said, I'm young. I'm trying to do the same thing. I have so much to learn, and I'm looking forward to soaking up as much as I can.
No, respect, Evan. Really appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, I could already tell the future is bright for you. I'm glad we got to connect, and I'm sure we'll definitely keep in touch moving forward. But for the others, that may want to get connected with you, or learn and follow your career, or get connected with the Athlete Impact Investing, where can they find you? Where can they get connected with you?
Mm-hmm. Well, they can certainly find me on LinkedIn at Evan Kravetz. They can certainly reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm on social media with all that. And they can certainly reach out to me via email. It's Kravetz, my first letter of my first name, Kravetz @entoro.com. And as a young person, it's not like I'm getting flooded with years worth of connections, emails and all that. So I'm certainly going to make sure I respond to anyone that takes the chance to reach out.
No, respect. And we're definitely going to have all that information in the show notes. Make sure you connect with Evan, because I'm telling you now, when he's in the MLB starting and, doing all the wonderful things he's doing, you're going to have to reach out to his secretary or publicist before you can connect with him. So get in early. That's what, that's what he's telling you. Plant the seeds right now. But thank you so much for joining the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's busy times, despite this currently being recorded via during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Amobi, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Really, really interested to see all the projects you're working on. I mean, it's really.
I appreciate it. No, that means a lot. Thanks again.